Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oliveira. I am Ubiwhere's R&D manager. Let me just provide you a little bit of context on the company, what we do. We're a young company, a relatively young company. A small company, steadily growing since 2007. One of the objectives for this year is that we expand our international range and our international business. We have four main areas of interest, which are these explained here: mobility, energy, telco, and knowledge. And in order to actually get to that international area and provide services with quality, we've made a strong bet on that. So we are the youngest Portuguese company certified with CMMI Level 2 for development. We have participated, actively contributed to some European projects, such as, mostly in the energy sector, such as 42, Energy, Save Energy. Some of our team members have also participated in other projects while working for other companies, so we have some experience in this field. We are the promoters of a living lab, a ubiquitous computing living lab, and this may provide some context on where we're going to, and maybe shed some light on what I'm about to tell you next. So smart cities. We have a special interest in this field. Some of our areas of expertise actually touch this field closely. Mobility is one of them, obviously, energy, telco. So first of all, we need to understand a little bit of what cities are, and what we need to do with them, and what are the issues of cities or that cities face nowadays. So 100 years ago, this is data from the World Health Organization, and 100 years ago, 2 out of 10 people lived in cities. This has expanded. By 2010, more than half of all people live in cities, live in an urban area. And by 2050, this will have increased to 7 out of 10 people. That is huge. And that not only means that people are moving to cities, that also means that the definition of city and that the limits of cities are expanding. Cities are not what they used to be. The fringes, the outskirts of cities are now much more vast. They encompass a larger area, they encompass a lot of people, and they are connected. They are the whole paradigm, the whole mobile paradigm has changed the way people communicate, and that has been reflected on cities and their behavior, and their user behavior. What it means is that when we talk about smart cities, we have to understand that in a couple of years, right now it means that we're talking about the majority of users, mobile app service users, internet users, but by 2050, that will have moved on to 70% of all the user base. And it will continue to increase by the World Health Organization expectations. So we have the user base on which to build our use cases. So we have the data. These are services, some of them, most of them have been talked about right here. We have the data. We have people sharing more and more of their information online. Some of these services have built crowdsourcing platforms, and they are leveraging the information provided by their users to create better services, to create valuable information, and to create and to solve real problems. One use case that has recently been bought by Google is Waze, and it uses people's information on traffic to direct them to the best possible route. And it addresses some of the problems that have been talked about right here. Okay, 2. Well, what this means is that we have the data. More and more cities, and this has been talked about before, Porto is making an effort on that aspect. More and more cities are providing us with their data. So if we combine these two aspects, if we combine the user data, we combine the city data, and we make a real use case out of the conjunction, we can actually create services of value. What we need, on our opinion and from our vision, is the connections. Some of these services, some of the services I mentioned before, have built on top of this vision and have used the information that comes from the end users to create real value services. That's what we need to do as well. We need to do it by creating ecosystems of services. This is a service that we have created for tourism and mobility. We call it pervasive tourism. It stands on our mobility ground. And what it is basically service that can interoperate with other services, upon which developers and companies can build their own applications and solve problems that are related to tourism and mobility. We have built it like a REST API. That's the core of our platform. That is what developers and companies and institutions and municipalities and regions can use to build our applications on top of. We have provided a context-aware engine on top of it, on top of that REST API. It is pluggable with a series of components on top of the context-aware engine that can be expanded and that can create extra value, especially for developers, because if we need to create an ecosystem, we need developers to create applications for it. This has been mentioned before in the presentation just before mine. We need people to develop applications for it, so we need to create values, first of all, for developers. That's what Facebook has done, for instance. Their API is successful because developers can extract real meaning and real data from it. So we need these components to increase the participation from the developers. We have an achievements platform, a virtual card and tourist tracking system, and recommendations based on graphs, on connections between people and entities, entities themselves, people and people. We have integrated with some of these services to collect data from the internet, and we've made it interoperable. This has been talked about before. We think it's very, very important. And we think that if we intend to create an ecosystem, we need to be able to talk to each other. We need to make our machines and our services talk to each other. So we made it interoperable, and we've adopted some of the standards in the tourism industry, in the mobility industry, that will allow us to communicate with other companies and with other developers. We've also created a set of SDKs to ease the burden of developers. These are available for Android, iOS, the top platforms, which developers are mostly interested on. And these will also, we think, reduce the degree to which developers are sometimes reticent to adhere to a certain platform. We try to reduce that to the minimum. We try to make it easy to establish these synergies and these partnerships. We have validated this by building our own products on top of the ecosystem. So we've tried to build like mobility applications like Bike Emotion. That's one of those. That's the one on the top right corner, which is a bike sharing system. We built some tourism-based applications on top of it, museum guides, mobile guides, interactive user experiences, tourist cards, virtual tourist cards. We have a lot of implementations on top of it, which means that we found it useful. We think that others might find it useful as well. What we need to create as well, just as important as creating products on top and applications on top of this ecosystem, is creating other ecosystems, other services around it. So we need to create a galaxy of services, a constellation of services that are not only related to the tourism and mobility industry, but that can take advantage from the information we generate, that our users generate, to create actual value, to implement real applications that solve the big problems. We know that this sharing and the sharing of data, the sharing of information, the sharing of infrastructure, it's delicate. It's a delicate subject. But actually, we have sometimes we have to break the silos. We have to go and think a little bit ahead of where we are right now. And of course, we share the concern for the user's privacy, for the user's data. This platform was built thinking about it, but we do realize that in order to build real ecosystems, and in this case, in the application layer, we need to have this interaction. That's what those platforms I talked about before are doing. That's why they are successful, and I think that's the path we have to walk on. So this is our vision for the future internet, and I think that it suits it pretty well. I think that this platform, other platforms that have been talked about right now, and in this summit, have shared some of this vision, share some of the same concepts. So we need to be able to make them talk to each other. So we need to so that we can solve the big problems. We know they are there. We know sometimes what they are. Others we will figure them out along the way as we go, because our users and our cities will provide us with the answers, and mostly with the questions. And that's what we need to implement in our vision. And we've made this platform available to contribute to a small part of this environment and to actually give one step in the direction where we want to go. But we believe that only by cooperating with all these ecosystems and all these services can we actually really solve these big problems. So, not to take too much of your time, we're available. These are our contacts. Please check them out, and hopefully, if you share some of this vision, we can work together in the near future. Thank you.